Alright guys, we are now at game week 44 of this championship season, and boy have we got an interesting fixture list coming up this weekend. As well as all of the championship games that we will be previewing, we've also got a bit of FA Cup action to discuss as well, as Coventry will be taking on Manchester United at Wembley. But of course the main focus for today's video is going to be on all of the upcoming championship fixtures. Make sure to get your score predictions in the comments down below. But without any further ado, let's jump in. King Power for Leicester up against West Brom, a huge game to kick off the weekend. Leicester really in need of getting back to winning ways, having only won 3 of their last 10 matches. They do have the advantage once again by being the first team to play this weekend. They had that advantage when they played Plymouth last Friday. Couldn't take advantage though, as they lost 1-0. And this is another potential banana skin match. While West Brom haven't been firing on all cylinders of late, they've only won 1 of their last 5 matches and disappointingly lost last time out against Sunderland. They can be the sort of side to cause you a lot of problems. Thinking back to the reverse fixture earlier in the season, it was a dramatic last-minute winner from Leicester. Harry Winks with that goal on the counter-attack. And West Brom, definitely good value for at least a point in that fixture. I thought they did well to match Leicester over the course of the 90 minutes. Just a bit of fortune at the end that didn't go their way. While Leicester have been on a bad run of form recently, I do think they will eventually click back into gear. I know there's only 4 games to go of this championship season, but despite the blanks they've drawn in front of goal recently, they still have been getting themselves into decent areas. It's just a question of whether or not those forwards come back in to form in this sort of fixture against a West Brom defence that has been very sturdy this season. Score prediction for this one: 1 goal either way wouldn't surprise me, but I think I'm swaying towards a draw. Going to go for a 1-1er to kick the weekend off. Next then to Vicarage Road for Watford up against Hull. An interesting matchup here. Don't think that Watford will give Hull all too much in this fixture, but with the Tigers looking to keep their playoff aspirations alive, they really need all 3 points in this fixture. Coming into this weekend, there is a 6-point gap between Hull and Norwich, who sit above them. Crucially, Hull still do have that game in hand to come against Coventry, which if they were to win, they could make things interesting. But for Liam Rossini's men to get into the top 6 at this stage, I think they'd need to be flawless from now until the end of the season and probably win all 4 of their remaining matches. I don't think that Norwich are going to take their foot off the gas anytime soon. Since Tom Cleverley has come in at Watford, they have been a really tricky customer for the vast majority of sides they have come up against. I thought they got quite unlucky to lose that game in quite dramatic late circumstances against Southampton last time as well. The logic in my brain is sort of edging towards a draw in this fixture, especially with how many of them Hull have had this season. But to keep things interesting for the top 6 race, I'll say Hull maybe to just edge this one. 2-1 to the Tigers on the road there, maybe with a bit of Philly G magic to win it. After that we go to Cardiff up against Southampton. Cardiff do have the advantage of coming into this fixture with a little bit more freshness than Southampton, perhaps with Russell Martin's men in action in midweek. With that all being said, I think it is still the Saints that come into this game as the obvious favourites. Cardiff with nothing to play for at this stage of the season. There is the risk in these final few matches that squad is on the beach a little bit. Sure that Errol Bullock will be keen to avoid that happening and he'll want to end the season as strongly as possible, but home form all season has been a little bit spotty for Cardiff. They have lost their last 2 matches at home as well, and with all that being taken into consideration, I think it is the Saints that I'm edging for this fixture here. I think they'll have a lot of the ball in this one, just a question of whether Cardiff can take advantage of a set piece or a moment or 2 on the break. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 2-0 Southampton. Do fancy them for a win on the road there. After that, to the Stadium of Light for Sunderland up against Millwall. And you know what? Sunderland have put together a string of decent results, really. It comes on the back of that disastrous performance they had against Blackburn when they shipped 5 goals in that game. Since that, they've had 3 consecutive matches where they've kept clean sheets in quite tricky circumstances as well, against Bristol City, Leeds and West Brom. Now, Sunderland themselves haven't been free scoring in that time. They've only scored 1 goal in their last 3 matches. I do think there's a decent chance here to get all 3 points. Millwall have put themselves in a decent situation now where championship survival is almost guaranteed. They're on 50 points. I think it'll probably take 1 more point from their remaining matches to officially sort of get them over the line. I think that that will definitely see them stay up this season. Home form has massively improved for Millwall of late. Away from home, that's not quite been the case. They have lost their last 3 away matches. With all that being taken into consideration, Sunderland being a bit stronger at the back of late, going to back the Black Cats for a 1-0 home victory in this game. Another tight one though, I think. We then go into a huge clash at the bottom of the Championship as Huddersfield go up against Swansea. We've said it a few times for Huddersfield on the channel of late, but this is their biggest game of the season so far. I think they need to take something from this game, so they go into the game against Birmingham next weekend with a little bit of wind in their sails and the belief that they can go out and win that match. Ultimately, Huddersfield's season does boil down to their next 2 matches, which both happen to be at home. This one against Swansea and then next weekend against Birmingham. They need to turn that ground into a fortress somehow. Now, I actually thought that Huddersfield reacted really quite well to that disappointing performance against Preston with that spirited display against Bristol City, which on another day would have ended with them picking up all 3 points had it not been for that late and very controversial penalty call for the home side. Swansea can't be taken lightly. Swansea can't be taken lightly though. They have won back-to-back matches, keeping clean sheets in both of those games. But with everything that's on the line for Huddersfield here, I think they just find a way to win. Score prediction, going to go 2-1 to the Terriers, which will make things seriously tight at the bottom. After that, we go to Carrow Road for Norwich up against Bristol City. A good chance here for Norwich to firmly establish themselves as part of the top 6. It was a huge win for them last time out against Preston. Gabriel Sara with that little bit of magic in an otherwise really tight game of football, but they now return to Carrow Road. They've got back-to-back matches at home, which they'll probably fancy themselves to win each of them. And do you know what? There's every chance that Norwich actually leapfrog West Brom over these coming weeks, which would really shake things up in the top 6, and certainly in terms of who the sides play in the playoffs. Bristol City can never be taken lightly though, especially in these sorts of matches against top 6 opposition, where typically this season they have tended to raise their game for. With all that being said, Norwich have been absolutely ruthless at Carrow Road this season. It's 8 consecutive matches they've won at home now, 13 games they're unbeaten at home. I do think they get the job done here, with Bristol City not having anything to play for. Score prediction for me, going to go 3-1 Norwich. Fancy them to open up that game a little bit. After that, we go to Rotherham up against Birmingham. Is this the biggest game in Birmingham's season? Could really do with all 3 points in this one, which would put them into a bit more of a comfortable situation heading into next weekend in a relegation clash they've got against Huddersfield. Now, Rotherham could still prove to be a tricky customer. There have been the odd exceptions here and there where they have had a bit of a battering, thinking recently against the likes of Coventry, Norwich and maybe Preston especially, where they have shipped 3 or more goals. But generally speaking, all of Rotherham's games lately have been fairly tight. They only conceded 1 against Swansea, 1 against Plymouth, only 2 away at West Brom as well, and one of those being a controversial penalty. Blues will be feeling pretty good about themselves after putting 3 goals past Coventry last time out, but I don't think the margin of victory for this game will be quite that clear cut. I think that Rotherham will probably come into it with the mentality of, you know, we want to bring someone down with us, and especially if they take the lead in this game, things could get very nervy from the Birmingham end. With all that being said, I think that Blues just about get the job done here with a scrappy 1-0 away win. Think it could be tight though. Another huge clash coming up at the bottom of the table next as Stoke go up against Plymouth, and what a relegation showdown this could be. Sure, there'll be plenty of nerves from the Stoke side especially, with Plymouth putting together back-to-back wins, and that marvellous result last time against Leicester does give them a little bit more breathing room coming into this fixture, where a point in this game for Plymouth I don't think would be the worst result in the world, whereas Stoke probably looking to go out and get all 3 from this one. For Schumacher's side, it's no wins in their last 4 matches, but 3 of those games have ended level. It was crucial they didn't lose that game against Sheffield Wednesday last time out, and while it wasn't the finest of performances, I think it's probably fair to say, still managed to scrape a point, which is massive in the shape of the relegation zone right now. It's a really tough one to call this, because a win for Stoke would see them leapfrog Plymouth, but a win for Plymouth in this one would, I think, completely take them out of the relegation picture and pretty much secure their safety in the Championship for next season. A win for Plymouth here would put them on to 51 points. I think a draw probably is the most likely outcome here, but I don't want to sit on the fence for this fixture. Got a gut feeling that maybe Stoke just have some fortune that blows their way in this one, and they just sneak it by 2-1. So that's what I'll go for in this game. After that, to the evening kickoff on Saturday, it's QPR up against Preston. QPR slight advantage with Preston playing in midweek against Southampton. It'll be interesting to see which version of North End shows up for this fixture. From a QPR perspective, this game is absolutely massive. I do think there's a good chance that both Birmingham and Huddersfield win this weekend, which, if that's to be the case, man, QPR could really be dragged back into this relegation scrap if they don't get a result here against North End. With two pretty tricky fixtures to come for QPR after this game as well. They've got that Friday matchup against Leeds, and then on the final day of the season are away to Coventry as well. So this really has to be a fixture that Marty Cifuentes' side are looking to take advantage of. Now, thinking back to the reverse fixture earlier in the season at Deepdale, QPR put in a really good spirited defensive performance, nullified all of Preston's attacking threats, and then took their chances when they came along. They beat us 2-0, and they really could do with a similar sort of performance here. Though without winning their last 3 games, I've just got a sneaky feeling that they do get something over the line here. Score prediction: going to go 2-0 QPR reluctantly. Do have a gut feeling they'll beat us here. After that, we go to Ewood Park for Blackburn up against Sheffield Wednesday. And, I mean, we're approaching last chance saloon for Sheffield Wednesday now, aren't we? They really could have done with getting that result over the line against Stoke. In the end, it finished level, and that magnifies the importance of these last 3 matches for Wednesday to win at least 2 of them, at the very least, to give themselves a fighting chance of beating the drop this season. With all that being said, I don't think this will be very straightforward. Blackburn coming off the back of a tremendously good defensive performance away at Ellen Road, where Sammy Smodics popped up with that winner in the second half. And the crucial thing for this sort of matchup is, generally speaking, Sheffield Wednesday's improvement under Danny Roll has been built upon defensive stability, but it's also worth pointing out that they still don't tend to score that many goals. They've only scored 36 so far this season, which is the second fewest in the Championship. Only Rotherham have scored less goals than that. In this sort of game, I do fancy Blackburn to get at least 1 goal, with Smodics popping up with a moment of magic or something like that, which then means that if Wednesday are going to go out and win this game, I think they're going to need at least 2 goals at the very least, which I'm not sure they get. Blackburn aren't completely home and dry yet, but with 49 points, they're almost there. I've got a feeling this one could end level, you know, which isn't helpful to Wednesday right now. Score prediction: going to go for a 1-1 draw. Then, as the final game to preview in the Championship this weekend, we've got a really tasty one coming up on Monday night as Middlesbrough go up against Leeds United. Middlesbrough, who are the form team in the Championship right now, they're on the longest unbeaten run, have taken points away from a lot of top sides recently, gave Ipswich a really good run for their money last time out, and now they'll be looking to do the same to Leeds. Now, the mentality of the Leeds squad will be quite interesting coming into this game. Obviously, they get the benefit of playing after both Leicester and Southampton, so we'll be well aware of what's already happened in those fixtures. With no Ipswich playing this weekend, Leeds will have the opportunity to go back into the top 2, regardless of what Leicester do this weekend. If they beat Middlesbrough, they will go above Ipswich in the table, obviously, with the Tractor Boys then having a game in hand to play. Borough, in fairness, not conceding that many goals right now. Earlier in the campaign, I think they were quite guilty of giving away a few cheap chances to the opposition, but they have seemingly cut that out of their game recently. They've now only conceded 5 goals in their last 9 matches. Leeds, who definitely haven't been firing on all cylinders in the final third either. They've only scored 1 goal in their last 3 matches and have failed to score in their last 2. The pressure really is ramped up for this one because they need to return to winning ways sooner rather than later if they do want a spot in the top 2. I do think Leeds at least get a point from this one. Whether it's all 3 points, I'm not so sure. Score prediction: Gonna go for a 1-1 draw, which isn't that helpful to Leeds. And before we round off today's video, we also have a bit of FA Cup action to dive into as well. We've got Coventry going up against Manchester United at Wembley, and regardless of what happens in this tie, it's been a marvellous achievement by Coventry to get this far into the FA Cup. And do you know what? I do think they'll give Erik ten Hag's side a run for their money in this game, with how unpredictable Man United tend to be in the Premier League, and most crucially how many chances they tend to give away to the opposition as well. I at least fancy Coventry to get a goal or two in this one. Last time out for Coventry in the Championship was really disappointing, losing 3-0 against Birmingham, but they just need to get that game out of their system as quickly as possible and then head into this one against Man United with a clean slate. Like I say, I do think they'll give Man United a good run for their money, but my head says it will just be Man United that edge this one. Score prediction, I'll go 2-1 Man United, but Cov will keep it close, I think. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to get all your score predictions in the comments down below. Particularly interested in how you think these Championship matches will go over the weekend. Other than that though, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.